and that was diesel, but they had an all electric, almost like a Twizy, the Renault Twizy. I don't know. Yeah. I've always been fascinated with all of these ideas, and I kind of want to kick someone in the shin and be like, why did you never follow through? Like, you could have set the market instead of now trying to catch up, and it wasn't the right time, but you're also realizing you're not the right time or the right product right now. So like, I just,
All right, so welcome back. This is part 2 of our conversation with Jamie, where we are going to focus a lot more on electric cars, as we promised. And Jamie's going to tell us about his experiences with IDs specifically.
So I've always had a nerd fascination there. And then my involvement with IDs really came, let me think, there's probably 3 of them. The ID.24 at Nürburgring. We were over on a trip, and I knew it was happening, but it was top secret. So if I went to someone else inside Volkswagen and said, hi, do you know about a project that I don't know if you're allowed to know about, and you don't know if I'm allowed to know about, but if you do know about it, can we go somewhere where nobody can hear us so that we can talk about it? And they would be like, well, is it the project that you don't know about that I also don't? And like, so finally we got an invite. So if you see when it did its lap and it crosses Roman is crossing the start finish line, there's just inexplicably like 7 Americans standing on the side like cheering. And then I was at the very top of Pikes Peak when it set the record.
That's great.
Which was amazing. So it's a car, I don't like the word, but it's a car tuner, someone that enjoys modifying and making cars worse. I embrace electric on that side fully. And it kind of annoys me personally. I had another one where they did the ID4, Tanner Faust was driving it in the Baja, and they had to hire my company to assist with logistics. So I flew to LA and I crossed the border into Mexico with it, and I got it done ahead of schedule. So I said, okay, I'll just ride along down to the start and hung out with it. And I was talking to the engineers and saying, look, I don't care about 80% of this battery. Cut it out. Just give me 20%. Because when you go drag racing, you're not drag racing with 12 gallons or 16 gallons of fuel. You run a smaller tank, or even if it's a stock tank, you just put just enough fuel to do the run. And I was saying, batteries don't weigh any more or less, no matter if we're using them or discharge or anything. So just cut out 80%. And then it got into the conversation of, how can I increase the charge time? Sorry, how can I decrease the charge time?
We know what you meant,
Yeah, well, we have a cooling system, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, great, upgrade it. And I don't care about longevity of the battery. You know, if a battery will charge 10,000 times, well, this is motorsport. A motor doesn't need to run 100,000 miles. You build it for 1 race or 2 races, and then you rebuild it. So forget batteries. Just let me whack a charge in it as fast as safely possible. And what's the limiting factor? Is it the cooling? Is it, you know, what's the downside here? And they didn't get it. It's like, just go talk to a race team. Like, this is fundamental. And the same with the motors. Just, I don't care about longevity. Like, what's the weak points? How do we upgrade it and go down the line and find the failure points?
In some ways, it does them credit that they're not thinking about how they can make something that doesn't last long. But in other ways, it's frustrating when you're trying to make you have a specific goal in mind here. It's like, no, we don't need it to.
Yeah. Sure. Nobody modifying their car genuinely probably can outdo all of these millions, billions, trillions of dollars, euros spent in engineering. We do it for fun. We do it to make it something, do a job, or we lower it so it looks better. Maybe it handles better in the corners, but then you have a rougher ride. And so there's balance. And my thing with the electric cars is, let us mess with that balance. So that was some more experience there, and that car did great. They went back the next year with a female team and did great there. So there's no problem with longevity. Tanner, wonderful professional driver. They went out into the sand dunes, and they worked out with the traction control that it was smart enough to walk its way up the sand dunes. So with the factory ID4 traction control with proper tires, you could see it almost calculating and just working its way up bit by bit.
That's cool.
Which then takes me on to my next story, which was I filmed with Tanner. He and I were the professional drivers for an internal video for dealerships. So if any of the dealers after COVID saw me and my Gulf country jumping all four wheels through a snowbank, and we were filming with the ID.4s and Atlases on a custom built ice racetrack miles away from any other cameras. And boy, when you turn off all of the systems on those things, which nobody can really do, of course we played later on and see what we could do. There's so much torque, and especially through the rear engines, undrivable. I mean, it is just like no amount of skill can save the skid that's about to happen. But with it turned with the really low level fail-safes on, but the traction control turned. I hope this is okay to talk about. But no, it did so well. I mean, low center of gravity. It was just so much fun with great tires. It was so much fun filming that, and I never take time to sort of stop and appreciate, because it's always on to the next thing. But that's another. I'll cherish that one.
Yeah.
Wow. And to our listeners and viewers, Jamie, you of course posted both the Baja and the ice driving also on your YouTube channel. So we link those links down below. So you can now go and experience what Jamie experienced and saw and described. So
some of them, the dealership one, you would have to go deep if you work. Those were never public, and so that was dealer only. But yeah, there's lots of fun things happening. The cars are incredibly capable. So I think. I agree. I don't like the window switch. I'm sorry, but the actual fundamental engineering all the way down to that very, very basic level that nobody will consider. Nobody's driving their ID.4 3 thinking about how much work went into making that drivability just kind of flawless. And it's when you take that away, which nobody really can do, then you realize, holy crap. Like that's wild. And I love to imagine going all the way back to the engineers first building this out and crashing the cars and realizing like, hey, and what level, and making those choices.
It helps you appreciate the work that went into making it so drivable, right? Yeah.
Oh, 100%. So yeah, when I make fun of the juxtaposition really between complaining about the window switches, but then taking this sheer drivability and that it will climb sand. Nobody needs it to do that, but it's so smart and doing all these millions of calculations that it just flawlessly does it, and we don't think about it, and it really does just work.
I agree. And we all agree that the drivability of the ID.4 specifically, because that's the one that we drive every day, it's spectacular, right? And now it's, for some reason, like people take the drivability, the great drivability as granted, but and then they're obsessed about things that, oh, when I press the button on the multimedia system, it takes half a second longer than I would expect it to do. And I'm like, well, it's a car primarily, right? But there always has to be some good balance.
I'm not going to apologize for that. We're all angry at Apple right now for changing the folders to the photos, and we live in an age of wonderment. I mean, the computers that are in everything we own. I mean, just things, but no. I don't begrudge people for complaining about those things, but I do also get to have seen on the inside some of the things that it has taken. Like, hey, if you ever meet one of the engineers or the people out there testing in the field for why this system on your radio worked perfectly, and then out in the real world something is interfering or something's happened, like, instead of screaming at that person, give them a hug because they are working so hard, and they're up in freezing temperatures and down in Arizona in the summer and just out there working for us, Volkswagen or every manufacturer every day. But it kind of fascinates me what goes into it.
I agree.
So yeah, that's kind of my ID war stories, really.
Have you driven the US spec long wheelbase Buzz yet?
No, I have not. Volkswagen Press invites me when they want to, but no, I've driven the European ones. I've driven in the ID.3s, having the ID.
Interesting.
And that was one thing that I really recognized the Europeans for, because they have 240 volts in their power home power line. And what it means that they can charge 2.5 kilowatts on the level 1 charge, meaning the charger that is included in the car. So it's twice as fast as what we can do here in the US on the level 1. And so the benefit is that you just can plug in like almost anywhere with the charger that came with your car. So I think that this is incredible, and people don't realize it much, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the US, when you put it in terms, I don't know about you both, but I find myself explaining the use case to people that are looking at the ID.4 in the US. Oh, I don't want to have to find a charger. I don't live near one. I'm like,
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah.
Don't, yeah, charge it at home like your iPhone or
Yeah.
your Android
Right.
overnight. And you wake up in the
Exactly.
morning and you don't charge it for 4 days and you never go to a fuel stop again. Like,
Exactly.
stop
It's
it.
so hard to explain to people. The only time you need to worry about a charger is if you live in an apartment complex or a condominium complex and you can't have one at home,
Sure.
right? And that's, I probably wouldn't get an electric car. Well, I probably still would because I'm crazy. But normal people, I wouldn't recommend an electric car if you can't charge at home or at work. Maybe you can charge at work,
And,
right?
and that is true. You need to be lucky enough to have a garage or a driveway that has a plug that it doesn't cross over a sidewalk or something. So I should give that big asterisk. But no, I think you're completely right. But then in the US, if you have a electric dryer, it's the same plug.
Right.
For me, I use a 3-prong for my welder, and that was just laziness.
There you
I
go.
could have extended out to the outside of the garage, and I'll just buy the 3-prong one and use the welding outlet. But Europe absolutely does have that benefit. Yeah, they are lucky to have 240 natively at every wall.
That is one of the things one of the reasons we like doing this show. I mean, mainly we're doing this to people that are already electric enthusiasts, but we want people to know, like you said, people ask how long does it take to charge? Well, it takes the 10 seconds it takes to plug it in, right? I mean, that's not a satisfying answer, but that's really the truth. I plug in when I get home and I don't worry about it until I get back in the car.
To me, really, the phone is the perfect one. When you suddenly you're out somewhere and your phone's on 2%, you got to panic. You got to find a charger, or you've got to find a plug that you can plug your charger into. And how long does it take? Well, do you have an expensive charger, or do you have a cheap charger? And how good's your cable? And that's it. I mean, it's the perfect analogy. It's so one-to-one.
Yeah.
But if you're just organized and don't forget to plug it in at night, and if you imagine your phone lasting 4 days because your commute's only 50 miles, you're done. You never, next time it's raining, whatever else. And so I'm such a advocate for it with the right use case.
Yeah. Well, we have, my wife has a Mach-E and I have the ID.4, and we only have one charger, and it's just never been a problem.
Sure.
And so, speaking electric, Jamie, do you have any electric car project that you can share?
So genuinely, no. If I couldn't tell you, I would give you a wink or something.
Okay.
No, I don't, and it drives me crazy. And I have to be careful what I say. I have tried.
Wow.
I've forward projects. I said, look, you don't have to go crazy. I don't need to burn my place down by cutting 80% of the batteries out and working out just what is the failure point of fast charging. I mean, like dumping charge. But no, there's a German gentleman that did drive all 48 states. He drove to every dealership, and he did it in an ID.4, and he's since gone back and done other things. And the US didn't really catch on. So there's a whole Instagram account for it, and the metrics were not wonderful, and I tried to share it a little bit. But so every time that I'm like, look, let's go do this, there was a record for the fastest 48 driven states. I'm like, I can beat it straight up. Like I know I can. And I think it's been beat again and again now. And the trick for me, because I love spreadsheets, it was starting in a state that doesn't have any rapid chargers and getting through the first 3 states that don't. And then by the time you get to the very first rapid charger, and then it was, hey, let's get in cahoots with Electrify America and make sure that we have one available, that it's ready to go. So I've had projects that to me were exciting, but the powers that be were not really into it. And then, the ID.Buzz, short wheelbase, which I literally have little stickers here. So we brought those, we brought it over.
Ooh,
and we've got
nice
3-piece wheels made by Rotiform that look like the originals, and Delinte tires. This is a weird side thing. So I work with Delinte tires. They make tires they make them for Boeing. They're one of the authorized. There's not many companies in the world that can make jumbo or 737 or whatever tires, but they're one of them. And they made the tires for it. And they're bringing out, they have a new electric range of tires, which every manufacturer seems to be pushing more now. And they made them. They literally, what size do you want? And I was over here, I was sitting in a restaurant, and they literally said, we need the tire size now. And I guessed, and they molded one-off set of tires for that ID.Buzz. Like, I didn't know this was a thing. Yeah, so no, we've had some fun. I don't know what my next one is. I really don't. I really, for the show, I would love. I asked last year for the ID GTI. It was so fresh and had other
The
shows to go to
ID2.
in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't get that, but
Oh, I thought you
I
meant
would.
the Buzz GTI. I'm with you. Okay. Or
Yeah,
Buzz GTX.
yeah. The
Sorry.
ID2, the concept. I think it had totally black windows. I don't know if the interior was built when it came out. So total concept car. I was, still am. I think I need to touch base, but the former head of design for Volkswagen was a real proponent for electric, and he's now moved on to a Chinese brand. But we're kind of in cahoots and trying to bring some of these concepts to the US and get people excited, because I do believe. Okay, some listeners are going to yell at their speakers again. I'm not convinced complete electrification is viable in the world anytime soon. I would not be surprised if it's not in our lifetime. I think when you look at these other countries that just don't have electric, I mean, never mind rolling power cuts, but just don't have access to electricity. Right. And so how are we possibly going to replace those markets? But no, I think I love the brain gymnastics of trying to work out when would it be viable. And in my mind, slightly, however you want to say it, I love Star Trek Next Generation. I grew up on it, and I love the idea of us all being under the UN and being happy and sharing,
when the replicator is invented, then things will be better, right?
Yeah. To go further political, I'll ask you another question. Do you think there has been damage done in the last couple of years in the USA and Germany, Netherlands specifically, by the perception of being forced by governments? Do you think that's put people's backs up so much that they're like, I won't consider electric, even if it would have been great for them?
I don't think I'm qualified to answer that, because I don't understand the feeling of being forced. Like, is it because they were saying the manufacturers would have to stop making internal combustion?
Between that and then the tax in Europe, the tax subsidies of gasoline cars are getting so expensive to tax, whereas electric, Netherlands were like, hey, it's free, or it's heavily subsidized, so they were pushing. But then I feel like I hear a lot of resentment, almost. Is that the right word? That they're like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not getting an electric car.
That's a very American phenomenon, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Not just American. I've seen this even in Europe. I think that people have to be open-minded. Yes, there is this notion that, well, because the government forces this on me, I hate it. And so when people come into that option with hate and resentment, as you are all saying, it's not going to go well, because they need to be open-minded. And they, as we discussed before, is the use case for an electric car the right one? Do I have a place to charge it, right? And would I really enjoy the ride? And I think that if these three checks are checked, then
but we can get on food industry. We can go on.
I understand people not wanting to be told what they're going to buy. But I think there's going to be a tipping point where enough people have electric. I mean, look, anyone that's driven an electric on a daily basis for more than a few days understands that it's better in every way, objectively, except for road tripping. And even then, it's not, it's just, I can't remember the last time the last time I had to worry about range was on a road trip. And it was because it was 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and we, or 45 or something. It was colder than normal, and we just didn't get the range we wanted. We had to find a charger. So, and if I hadn't been insisting on trying to find a supercharger, because I wanted to try one for the first time, we had our Mustang, and I was going to use the new adapter for it. So it would have been a less painful experience. But honestly, other than that, I haven't thought about my range this year.
I love the converts. I love when people have that realization.
Exactly.
That even people with Volkswagen, I have a good friend there, and they get a company car, and they just got their first electric. And before it, she was saying, I have to get it. I don't really want to. And now she said, I will never get another non-electric
Yep.
Yeah.
because she drops her kids off, she drives around, she goes home. It was just in a user experience. I'm like, absolutely. Like their electric heater heats up so much faster than engine coolant does for heating it. Like this,
Yeah.
So we're all
Yeah.
converted. We are all
Awesome.
drinking the
Love it.
yeah
Love it.
the cool.
So Jamie, this is so great discussion with you, and we are so grateful for your time. So we usually have this one last question for all our guests, which is, what excites you every day, and what inspires you every day?
Boy, okay, wow. Now it's therapy. Well, okay, I have got enough projects to last multiple lifetimes, and right now I'm going to give a small shout out if that's okay.
Of
I
course.
did buy Performance VW magazine, which is crazy to say. For those that don't know, it's a print magazine. It's been going like 28 years, and a bunch of its sister magazines were getting closed down. And myself and the editor tried to find a buyer. And in 2024, there's a lot of change in the car industry, especially Motor Trend, Hoonigan. A lot of these really big companies have been declaring bankruptcy or closing down. A lot of people getting laid off, and I did the opposite, and I bought the magazine. And Elliot's now co-owner and is safe in his job as long as we sell
I'm sorry.
some.
I misunderstood. I thought you just meant you bought a copy of the magazine. You bought the magazine.
No, I bought the magazine from the publisher. I am now the publisher.
Oh wow! Congratulations!
Sorry.
I misunderstood too. So congratulations.
Okay, so yeah, I'm
like,
holding up
big news
a
that you picked up a magazine. You stopped by the magazine stand and picked up.
Yeah, but it's got my logo and my name on it now.
That's great. I love it.
But I don't want these things to go. I love data. I love things, repositories being safe. I host a couple websites that I have nothing to do with, but I just reached out to their creators and said, I need this information to be safe. So put it on my server, and I don't need sponsorship, branding, anything. Just please, I want these wiring diagrams, brochures, other things to be safe. And that's how I feel.
You're just like us.
We're just nerds. But I've ended up in a position where I can, for years, pay for that hosting, which is very cheap, and then now buy a magazine and publish it, which is really not cheap. So yeah, right now I wake up every day with more on my plate. And for Volkswagen, the list of Volkswagens that I want to own, that I want to drive, that I want to experience and share, and other owners sharing their cars and their stories, which, hey, look, comes back to the magazine, is endless. There's one very specific commercial vehicle that I really want to own, and it was a really small production, and it's terrible. I mean, it's awful. It's made for the poorest farmers. Like, nobody would want one, but I just want to own one, and I want to drive it across America. And so yeah, there's no end for me in this brand, in the group, for interest, for cars, for stories, for people. And it's a stereotype, and it's cheesy saying it, but it is the people's car. And no matter if you are an intern or the CEO, you can be driving a Volkswagen, and there's so much engineering across decades and decades. And so that's what motivates me, and that's my endless fountain of youth as far as these cars go.
Thank you so much. This was a great discussion, Jamie. Thank you. Thank you so very much. This was awesome. Please subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and follow us on VW ID Talk, and of course follow Jamie on his Instagram and other social media, and of course buy his new magazine. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
I just wanted to hear you say purple umbrella stand, if you would do that.
No, I can do it. Purple umbrella stand.
Purple umbrella stand is
my Scots is weak.